Hello again, I'm Robert Fithin, and we continue the deep dive into the albums of 1983, going chronologically with just as many albums as I want to rate and review. Now, that previous video, there was a lot of kind of mediocre stuff, a little bit of lacklusterness going on there. I've already apologized for that, but we are in the final days of March 1983 now, and we are up to March 21st, and we can finally start talking about a little more exciting albums, some more noteworthy albums, and we are up to Pink Floyd and the final cut. Yeah, released March 21st, 1983. I think it came out April 2nd of 1983 in the US. So yeah, I've already reviewed this album once in a previous video, way back. I don't even remember what the video was, but I've already talked about this album, and I am not a huge fan of this. I remember getting this for the first time in the late 90s. Or no, it was the early 90s when I got this. And, love Pink Floyd. You know, The Wall was just not only one of my favorite albums, but my favorite experiences. I was obsessed with that album for a while. Of course, Dark Side of the Moon, that's a given. And all the great, the great 70s albums, the great 60s albums, Piper from Gates of Dawn is just awesome as well in its own way. Pink Floyd going through different stages. Loved most of it. Not a big fan of Adam Hart Mother or something, but it was okay. But yeah, Pink Floyd, man, I'm just such a huge, huge fan, and never has a band gone from here to here so quickly and then stayed down here. I am not big into the 80s Pink Floyd or the 90s Pink Floyd at all. And this is where it starts with the final cut. I remember getting this and just, hoping for the same kind of feeling that I got from their earlier albums, no matter what kind of sound they were doing. Of course, bands change their sound, but I was just hoping to be so into it, and just was not. And this is where Pink Floyd pretty much falls apart. I mean, the main lineup that put out all those great albums after, of course, we got Syd Barrett, going away early on, but the main group after that, putting out all those great albums, and this is where it all falls apart. I mean, Richard Wright isn't even involved in this. Nick Mason is barely involved. David Gilmour sounds to me like he's barely involved. This is basically a Roger Waters solo album. I'm not a big fan of his solo albums, and I've got the same thought of this as I do the solo album that I reviewed, Amused to Death, in my 1992 series. And it's that Roger Waters is a poet. If you're just going to sit down and just read these lyrics, brilliant, wonderful. This should be a book, of poetry. But it's not. It's a record album, and you expect to hear some melodies in here. You expect to hear some songs in here. You expect to hear some singing in here, and none of that's going to happen. It's Roger Waters doing his usual thing of being down here and basically speaking like this. Oh, Maggie, what have we done? That kind of thing. And then shouting out of nowhere, like you're watching a Nicolas Cage movie or something. It's like, that's the whole album. And I've said it in the 1992 reviews. I will say it, probably said it before that when I don't remember my review, what I talked about, exactly when I was talking about this album in the other video. But it's probably this: Roger Waters, in my mind, in my own silly-ass, meaningless, doesn't mean anything opinion, if Pink Floyd's falling apart, he should have created another band. He should have found another David Gilmour and found a band to put together. He would have been in complete control, didn't have to call it Pink Floyd, could have called it something completely different, and I think that would have been a lot better to my ears, whatever that means. But, this is just not, it doesn't cut it for me. It doesn't final cut it for me. It's just, great lyrics. I totally get it. I love the fact that he's taken his World War II thing that he had going on in a lot of the other albums, especially The Wall, and now is putting it in current times with Margaret Thatcher and what was going on there at the time in the early 80s in England. And I love that he was able to blend all that together. But other than that, again, it's the lyrics. They're great. But other than that, the music is just Not really anything. I mean, you got some nice you got some nice David Gilmour guitar in the Not Now John song or whatever, and a couple of the others. You got the Pink Floyd sound effect. You got bombs going off and guns going off and sound effects and whatever. But other than that, I mean, this is just... It just seems so non-essential. And I know it's been sort of reevaluated over the years, and now it's some sort of masterpiece, but I'm from the 80s as far as my discovery of this, and I don't think it's a masterpiece. It's just a very frustrating, disappointing listen. Of course, now that I've heard this, 10 or 11, 12 times in my life, it's not so disappointing anymore, because I know what I'm in for. I'm actually starting to actually listen to this and pick out little things like, oh, maybe that's not so bad. That little part there, okay, that little part there, it's okay. It's not too bad. Lyrics are great. Not enough to get this above 2 stars, though, especially considering it is Pink Floyd, and I'm going to need a little more from Pink Floyd. That's the bottom line here. So, yeah, the final cut, I mean, I'm down to the point where if I'm listening to this, it's because I'm making a video at this point. But, yeah, so 2 stars for Pink Floyd, the final cut. Let's move on. So we're getting to some really classic albums here and there as we continue the journey of 1983, chronologically reviewing and rating these albums. March 23rd, ZZ Top came out with Eliminator. And as much as I love this album, I do wonder, though, what I would have felt about this if I was just a little bit older. Because I love ZZ Top 70s stuff. Every one of those is a classic album. The earthiness, you've got this super tight trio just playing this really fun boogie rock. And, I just did a video recently about, obtaining the Rhino High Fidelity version of their debut album. But love all of those 70s albums. Always have since I discovered them. And, but I wonder if I was a little bit older than 10 when it was 1983 and this came out. I wonder what I would have felt about these guys going to like the click track drums and the drum machines and the synths and things like that, and kind of 80s-ing them their sound up with that kind of stuff. If that 80s-ing their sound up. I wonder if I would have liked that, or if I would have felt like, oh man, these guys sold out. They're just trying to change with the times. What is all these synths and synthesizers and computerized, whatever, and drum machines, and man, come on, where's LaGrange? What are you guys doing? But they sort of crept into this sound, into the 80s on albums like El Loco and whatever. So by the time they got to Eliminator, they had fully embraced it with their engineer and producer helping out. And this was one of my first experiences with ZZ Top. So it really does, like I'm always saying, it's all so subjective. It just depends on where you were when you first heard this stuff. How old you were, what the experience was like, what you'd heard before, that all of that all comes into play. So when I first heard this and saw the videos on Friday Night Videos, I was just absolutely blown away. Loved it. Loved Sharp Dressed Man the first time I saw the video and heard it. Loved Legs and Give Me All Your Lovin' and all of those great songs on here. TV Dinners was more like a video, really, more than it was a song that was on the radio. That video was on all the time. I rarely heard that on the radio, but the others were bona fide hits, and even the album tracks on here. If I Could Only Flag Her Down and Dirty Dog, and I Got the 6, Give Me Your 9. I had no idea what the hell that meant when I was 10 years old, 11 years old. But classic. I mean, 5-star album as far as I'm concerned. Obviously, I'm wearing the shirt. Obviously, I like this album a lot. And no surprise here. I've actually got an autographed copy of this. It's kind of hard to see because it's a ballpoint pen, but Frank Beard autographed it right there, and then Dusty Hill autographed it right there. So one of the few actually autographed full albums that I have. Usually if I have autographed things, it's a CD because those were easy. You put this booklet in your pocket and you can carry it around. ZZ Top Eliminator, another one of those format tour albums that I had where I did the whole format. I first got it on a cassette, then got the CD, and then the record later on, and so had this for a long time. The cassette, I wore that thing out. I absolutely love this from start to finish. The song Thug is kind of strange, but other than that, This is solid pretty much all the way through. As long as you can get over the fact that ZZ Top is kind of changing with the times. And they were so successful at it. These guys were huge in the early 80s. And I'm surprised noticing that when I look at this album, it doesn't have their photos on it anywhere. Not even on the inner sleeve. The back of the inner sleeve is just completely black. And then, you know, you've got the Eliminator car and all of that, but yeah, no actual photos of the band on here anywhere with their iconic beards at this point or any of that. But yeah, such fun videos, such a great band. They were in the right place at the right time to make those changes with the fun videos where these guys were just always in the background as these kind of like mythical figures, and that Eliminator car, and just the fun, especially like Legs video with the girl working in the store and getting mistreated, and here comes ZZ Top to save the day, and she goes and gets a makeover, and all this kind of, everybody gets, all their coworkers are now jealous. And the Sharp Dressed Man, pretty much the same thing, but it's a guy who, you know, he's down on his luck, or he's getting mistreated and disrespected, and then he becomes the Sharp Dressed Man. So much fun with those videos, and such a great album, ZZ Top's Eliminator. Now, there are two versions of this album, and I do prefer the single version of Legs, just because it's a little more fun. It's a little more, it got a little more energy going on in it than I do the album version. The album version is great though too, but you can actually get this album in later pressings with the single version instead of the album version. So just know about that. There's actually two different versions of the album. But yeah, incredible. ZZ Top Eliminator. I think I've pretty much said enough about it. 5 stars. Rick Springfield released his 7th or 8th album called Living in Oz on March the 23rd as well. Or maybe it was March 30th. It depends on which source you go by. I'm just going with the 23rd. It's only a week difference anyway. Rick Springfield, having all kinds of albums in Australia before he started getting popular in the United States. He did have that Speak to the Sky song back in the 70s that I used to hear on a K-Tel album. But other than that, he wasn't really well known in the U.S. except for as being an actor. He was a doctor on General Hospital. So he's a soap opera star more than he had a musical career. And then, of course, he comes out with Working Class Dog that has Jesse's Girl, and his music career absolutely takes off in 1981 in the United States. So you could be forgiven if you thought that this was his 3rd album, Living in Oz. I mean, as far as America goes, it might as well be. But anyway, starts off with the song Human Touch, all about this girl named Sally, whoever she is. She's got a hard time holding back the alley to her heart's beating track. She's got the love monkey riding on her back, and she's looking for the human touch. We all need it. I need it too. I remember being a 10-year-old and seeing this video on Friday night videos and hearing the song on the radio, and I always hated that line, we all need it. I need it too. And I remember even as a 10-year-old thinking, well, you already said we all need it, so that means that you're a part of that group, so why are you being redundant? I don't think I knew the word redundant back then, but anyway. So yeah, you have that starting off. Nice pop rock song. After that, we get a little reggae pop action. That's what happened in 1983. I think just about every album has to have its little reggae-tinged pop song on there, and this one has 2, actually, if you count the beginning of this song, Allison. This is an interesting one because, you know, Rick Springfield, like I said, he was an actor, a soap opera, and a few other things as well. And so this song is all about having a love scene with an actress named Allison, and he really gets turned on by the love scene, even though her husband's in the front row and you got the, you know, the stage lights on and everything. He's crushing up against her and really getting aroused, basically. And so it makes me wonder how real this song is. Is this a real story? Is there really an Allison out there that he had to do a love scene with that, you know, he got a little too, kind of broke the 4th wall, as it were? So that's kind of interesting. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. He probably, the actress, if there was one, her name probably isn't Allison. That would be too much. Title track, Living in Oz. You got, you know, him singing about Australia. That's Oz, not Oz where the wizard is. So, you know, this is just a great rock pop album, and it's produced to you know, par excellence. You know, he's got you know, he's a big name at this point, so he's got the best people working with him. Everything is very much top tier production, top tier songwriting. He does some of it himself, so he's multi-talented. I remember seeing Rick Springfield back in the 2000s in Decatur, Illinois, and it was right out in the middle of the street. It was some kind of street fair thing, and he's just playing, you know, he's not making hits anymore. He is older, but man, he still had the energy. He still looked like he was having a great time. The audience, including myself, were totally into it. It was just really, really fun. He was great. I was really surprised how much I enjoyed that. And the thing about it is, like I said, he's playing Decatur, Illinois, which is right next to Springfield, in the middle of the street. And so he's right under a sign, a highway sign that says Springfield, and then with the mileage next to it, like how far away it is. Rick Springfield playing right under a Springfield sign. I took a picture of it. I was going to put it up, but I can't. I don't know if I can find that or not. But yeah, so you got souls, basically, two souls looking for each other with the tick, tick, tick in time. Got to beat the clock. You ought to know it's an affair of the heart. That's the third single on here. So you got all the hit singles. You got, you got the great album tracks that could have been singles. It's just a really well-produced, very fun album from 1983. They don't get carried away with synths. They don't get carried away with drums. Just enough. Just enough. So I'm going to give Living in Oz from Rick Springfield 4 stars. It does have a little Casio kind of drum action before the song Me and Johnny, all about, dreaming about being rock stars and skipping school to see the Rolling Stones and all that. But it doesn't sound like somebody influenced by the Rolling Stones with that music bed going on. Final track on here is way different. It's a slow ballad. It's called Like Father, Like Son, and it's all about child abuse. Mental abuse, physical abuse, and how that becomes a chain. And now, I'm going to beat my child so he'll be a good boy too, because my father did that to me. And it was actually written by Rick Springfield, so I wonder how true that one is as well. So a little more going on in this than your average 80s rock pop album, and I'm definitely giving it 4 stars. Rick Springfield, Living in Oz, you can get this places for like $3, so if you're into that kind of sound, don't skip out on this one. The band from Louisiana called Zebra released their debut album on March 25th, and this is a pretty cool album, actually. These guys coming from Louisiana, they only had, I believe, 3 albums out, one right after the other, and then a 4th album much later on in the early 2000s, but basically the band had 3 albums. You usually see this one and No Telling Lies. You rarely see that third one anywhere. But yeah, these guys not too shabby on this album. I was not familiar with this in 1983. I didn't discover this until I started working in rock radio in the mid-90s with the 2 songs on here, Who's Behind the Door. But the big one was Tell Me What You Want, the song that starts the album. I've been wasting my time. Oh, and then, I've been losing my... Just tell me what you want! And yeah, a lot of screechy 80s vocals on here, but they're great. This is kind of a precursor to like the glam metal, whatever you'd call a hair band stuff that would come later on. But these guys are just before that. We're in 1983 now, so that stuff is just coming in. And these guys don't have the look yet, but they definitely have some of that sound going on. Then, like I said, this is a fun album. A lot of great songs on here. A lot of it kind of basic rock stuff, but very well done. Very well recorded as well. This really is a great sounding album sonically. It's produced by Jack Douglas, so it's got that going for him. He's the guy that did a lot of the early Aerosmith albums, among other things. So yeah, it sounds great. Great tunes on here. Just a nice blast of 1983 rock. Like I said, early glam kind of sound before the spandex and the makeup and all that, and the big hair came in. Although this guy's... I guess that's not really big hair. That's just kind of long hair with the kind of the mullet look going on. But yeah, Zebra. Tell Me What You Want was the big one, but they got other tracks on here worth checking out. The very last song on here, the La La song, builds up and builds up and builds up. This album is well organized too. The songs seem to flow together really nice. I'm a real big fan of, as I said before, the one that's right before Who's Behind the Door. Great song that's 7.5 minutes long. Take Your Fingers From My Hair. So they try to get a little spacier on that one lyrically, but it all pretty much works. They do a cover of the Beatles' Slow Down, which is actually a cover song that the Beatles did by a guy named Larry Williams. So, it's a cover of a cover, but I'm sure they're doing the Beatles thing. They do Slow Down, and they go right into a riff from, or a line or two from Blue Suede Shoes. So that comes in pretty early on the album, and then it's all about Zebra originals for the rest of it. But yeah, check out the song Tell Me What You Want. And if you dig that, you probably will like the rest of this album. I'm going to give Zebra's debut 4 stars. Okay, at this point we can talk about the band Toy Dolls from England and Dig That Groove, baby. That is their album that was released in April of 1983, and this is just a silly punk rock band. The kind of the oi style of punk rock, very fast with these that type of effect on the vocal, that kind of cadence. And yeah, these guys are silly. Their biggest song, which is on this album, is called Nellie the Elephant, which is apparently a popular British children's song. And they don't change the lyrics or make a parody out of it or anything. They keep the original, the Nellie the Elephant goes thrump, thrump, thrump down the road. He's leaving the circus. And yeah, they basically do a faithful version of it, just a punk rock version. These guys got the musical chops to pull it off. The vocals are different, so they capture your attention right away. But if you hear the first 90 seconds of this album, that is pretty much what you're going to hear for the whole album. It doesn't go in a lot of different places. It's not musically adventurous. These guys got their style. They're fun. They're goofy. They're silly. And that is the lane they're in. Probably a great band to get drunk a night out with your friends and see live. They're just taking the piss, as the English would say, throughout the entire album. And there's more songs than just about elephants. You've got one about Nellie and the test tube baby. You got one about, the fake poser punk rocker oi people. You've got one about a spider in the dressing room, but it's okay because he makes friends with the spider. After he tries to unsuccessfully kill the spider, then he makes friends with the spider. If you can't kill it, I guess make friends. But yeah, this is just silliness. Just pretty much all the way through. Not to be taken seriously, but like I said, it takes some talent to play the music this tight. The band is super tight. They do a cover where they keep starting, but the crowd supposedly just boos them and says it's not fast enough, so then they do this really super fast version. So, I mean, you got to have the chops to pull this off. Musically, they're pretty serious, I would say. I mean, they're not just goofing off and just lackadaisically playing. I mean, they're a tight band, and they keep up the energy, and the lead vocalist is, he stays right in that lane, but it is silliness. I mean, their big song is a children's song, so that gives you an idea. Toy Dolls, dig that groove, baby. If you want something just unabashedly fun, but also very listenable, you might want to check this one out. So Martin Briley might not be exactly a household name, but he is quite the studio musician and the songwriter. He's written songs for all kinds of super popular people and has been, in touring bands with some of the biggest acts and biggest names. And he's guy. He was like the go-to guy, or one of them at least. But he decided to go solo, put his own name on some albums, and in 1983 came out with One Night with a Stranger. And I was only really vaguely familiar with one of his songs all these years called The Salt in My Tears, and that is the first track on here. You ain't worth the salt in my tears. That's probably his most popular song, probably his only really popular song, actually. Definitely one of the singles on here. And I don't know why he didn't blow up bigger. I'm really glad that I got to know this album because it's great. Great power pop, great lyrics. Of course, he's a seasoned songwriter at this point, even though, he was kind of a newcomer to a lot of people in 1983. But yeah, this is just packed with great songs, great power pop songs. A little bit on the polished side, it doesn't have a lot of grit. It doesn't have a lot of, kind of raw, off-the-wall, wacky stuff. It's pretty much straight down the line, but he's a professional. That's what he's does. That's what he's known for. Coming in, you got the studio. You want the studio musician, he's going to lay it down for you. You want a well-crafted, well-written song, he's your guy. And now he's just doing it for himself. So, great songs on here. I think that the reason he didn't become more popular might have been the second single called Put Your Hands on the TV Screen. That one is all about the televangelism that was going on. It was big in the 80s all the time, and all these guys, I think it was a little bit later that they finally started, the cracks started to show, so to speak, and these guys get caught in hotel rooms with prostitutes and drugged up and, scamming money and all that stuff starts coming into the light for the whole nation to see. So it's kind of like that, he's kind of criticizing the TV preachers there about, you can just have all your sins healed and all your illnesses healed by just putting your hands on the TV screen. Oh yeah, and don't forget to send me some money too. A great, outlook on that, but not a great song in itself. Kind of like Jesus, He Knows Me from Genesis, totally behind the theme of that song, but not a great song. And so that was the second single, didn't go anywhere. But there's much better songs on here than that could have been a follow-up, like Maybe I've Waited Too Long. That's very, very catchy. Only a Mile Away, that's another one that's pretty good. That's the second song on here. But this thing is chock full of fun, power pop stuff. Like I said, it's just a little bit too polished in some places, and don't expect anything super quirky or anything like that. This guy's a solid professional. You know, there'll be none of that. Although there are some surprising lines that pop up, like in the song Dumb Love. That's the second to last song, where he's talking about seeing the girl standing at the bar wearing a leopard print upholstery that was stolen from a car. I thought she was a porno star. It's like, you ever had that happen in the 80s? You're just hanging out and, oh my God, Barbara Dare! No? Yeah, I was 10 years old. That didn't happen with me. I didn't know who Barbara Dare was until a little bit later. But the final song on here is the title track, One Night with a Stranger, and it's bopping along, pretty upbeat. One night with a stranger, da, 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 da. Oh, and you're checking out the lyrics, and you're just kind of bopping along with it. Like I said, very catchy, very pop, very upbeat. Oh, wait, he murdered her? What? Yeah, suddenly it's not about, you know, the fun you can have with One Night with a Stranger, or watch out, he's going to break your heart, or what? No, he's going to kill your ass. So she's just murdered, and oh, we're just pop. Oh well, that's the lesson you learn. You know, your last night on Earth was one night with a stranger. Da, 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 da. It's like, okay, well, that's an interesting tempo and feel for that kind of a song. That wraps up the album. But yeah, interesting listen throughout. I'm glad I discovered this. If I ever see this record somewhere, I'm definitely getting it. But I don't remember ever seeing this album anywhere, and I would have recognized that cover. That's a pretty cool cover. By the way, that's the scene from the Salt in My Tears video. But if I ever see this somewhere, I'm going to pick this up. Martin Briley and One Night with a Stranger. He's got a few other albums as well. Maybe I'll check those out at one point. I think this was his second one. But yeah, I'm giving this 4 stars because it deserves it. Okay, we are wrapping up March of 1983 with an album that was released on the 31st of that month from the band Streetheart. And the album is called Dancing with Danger. Streetheart is from Winnipeg, and I'm not familiar with them at all. The only thing I knew about them was they apparently had that song Hot Cherie out before the band Hardline, and I talked about the Hardline album and that Hot Cherie song when I did my 1992 series. They apparently did it first. I also know that they had 2 guys from Loverboy in the band before Loverboy. But I don't think they're in the band at this point, obviously, because Loverboy is a thing now. This band has been around since the 70s, and apparently they were huge in Canada. I'm not familiar. I do like that cover art, but that's interesting. But yeah, the first song on here, right out of the gate, it sounds like some sort of TV show theme called Coming True. Come on, yeah, 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 dreams are coming true, spread the news. You know, it's just this big inspirational hooray, everything's wonderful, and all the dreams are coming true, and wow, life's amazing. Power pop, basically, you know, keyboards and things like that, and just a little bit of hard rock in there, but nothing too crazy. It's power pop, basically, Canadian style. I don't know what Canadian style means. They're from Canada. By the way, I watch, you know, a few vinyl community channels with people from Canada. I've done that for years, and I don't remember ever hearing anybody talk about Streetheart. So, Canadians, leave in the comment, are Streetheart anything? Because I know that I read about the album, and it said that they'd won all kinds of Juno Awards, and man, people are just knocking down doors to get to them. I know they have 6 albums out, and this is the 6th. So this is their final album. They have another album after this where they put a bunch of outtakes on it, but this is their last proper studio album. 6 albums on 5 different labels. And so the band did this album and then apparently said, fuck it. And I can hear why. Not a big fan of this. Didn't get any takeaway songs off of this. Every song is, you know, coming true and too hot to stop and Night Writer. Not Night Writer, Night Writer. And then my favorite, Have It Your Way. So every song title is some sort of cliche or a Burger King slogan, or, you know, they've got Midnight Love. You know, we're just going to name our song after a Marvin Gaye album that came out last year. So very cliched, not a lot of sleaze, not a lot of fun, just a lot of really down the middle of the road kind of power pop. It's not very inspiring. It didn't really make me go, wow, where's this? I can see why this band is so popular in Canada. Another Canadian secret that's been kept as far as great music. Man, should have turned this on a long time ago. That did not happen. And yeah, it just kind of sat there. I mean, the musicianship, I guess, is okay. The vocalist is, I've heard better ones, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of this at all. It's just kind of really, really average. And in my ratings of 1 to 5, I get it. 1 to 5, 3 would be average, but that's not how my ratings go. 2 is the average. 3 means it's good, it's okay. 4 means it's great. 5 means it's awesome. So I'm going with 2 stars on this one. It ends with this kind of bad power ballad, Don't Let Me Love You. It's not great either. So overall, yeah, I'm going with 2 stars on this. I'm assuming their great stuff, if they have any, is on earlier albums. And they probably just started phoning it in and then decided just to break up. And that's what this album is. Let me know in the comments what you think about Street Heart. You know, if I would have probably heard a couple of these tunes when I was growing up, maybe there'd be a little nostalgia factor. Maybe I'd have a little more love for it. But at this point in my life, hearing it at this age for the first time, it really just does not really do too much for me. And with that, the month of March has ended. I can't think of a better way to wrap up a month than with some Street Heart. But it gets better in April, because in the next video, I'll talk about albums from David Bowie, The Tubes, Bonnie Tyler, Carlos Santana, and Fastway, and a lot more. So hopefully you'll check that one out as well. There's going to be, you know, videos where there's a lot of great albums released all at the same time. There's going to be videos where there's like not so much great albums released. I'm just doing all of these in chronological order by release date. And also the ratings I'm doing are on a curve. I'm pretending that there are no other albums that exist other than in 1983. So it's all rated on a curve like that. So I'm Robert Fifth, and thank you so much for checking this video out, and hopefully you'll check the next one out as well, and I will see you then, or actually you will see me then.